Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're in a little bit of a windstorm where I am, so I apologize. I know if you did get bumped out, I do apologize. Unfortunately, it's a little like the Wizard of Oz here with a cyclone. It's so windy, so I apologize if you did get bumped out. We did have a little bit of a power interruption. But I think we are back live now. You should be able to see the blue MiRealSource webinar screen. So if you can see that, you are in the right spot. We're going to give everybody just a minute. We had quite a few people logged in. I see quite a few of them coming back right now. So we'll give everybody a moment to get logged back in here, and we will get started. Chris VanBelle, how are you doing today?
Awesome. How are you? Looks like we got a couple people saying hi in the chat box already.
Awesome.
That's kind of cool.
Hello and welcome, everybody.
That's a lot of people. As people know, I live in Lapeer, and we've had some pretty cool snowstorms along with the wind, so it's pretty awesome today.
You know what? I want to be honest, when I saw the snow today, when I literally looked out at one point, it was like a whiteout. I totally thought of you, and I said, Chris wished this on us.
Yes, I did.
Chris is a big fan of the snow. For anybody who doesn't know him, I think most people in this industry do know you, but he's a big fan of the snow, and he's always wishing for more. I am the extreme opposite. I just want to go on record. All right, so we're gonna give everybody one more minute. I apologize, we did have a little bit of technical difficulty that did give us a little bit of a about 3 or 4 minute delay, but everybody seems to be logging back in, and we'll go ahead and get started. So Chris, are you weathering the shelter in okay? Or everybody safe at your house? Everybody's feeling good?
Yep, so far so good. This is the week I got the babies here, so we've got 5 kids doing their homework on online and all that other good stuff.
Wow.
I got to put in a planter box outside yesterday. That was kind of fun.
Very cool. It is nice. I'm starting to get caught up.
How are you doing over there?
Good, good. I have to tell you, I actually have gotten quite a bit done. You know, as you know, we're working a lot here at MiRealSource. We're hosting webinars every day. And I have learned that I would not be a good homeschool teacher. I'm just telling you. Yeah, the spirit of Common Core math and we just do not agree. So,
oh, don't get me started.
We're trying. We certainly keep trying. So, but I think, do we have Dave back on the line yet?
No.
All right, then we're just going to go ahead and get started. I just want to thank you for joining us today. We're going to go over a lot of information. I first want to start off by introducing who I am. My name is Colleen Delange. I have been on the staff at MiRealSource now for almost 10 years, I think it is. And a little bit about my background is I've also been a licensed realtor for the last 22 years. Our goal is today to show you how to complete an entire transaction from beginning all the way from prospecting right down through the end. How are closings happening, what you need to know. And we're going to kind of do this kind of like a soup to nuts. We're going to show you everything that you're going to need to know. Obviously, these are very challenging times. We're having to work remotely. We can't get in our cars and drive over to the houses as we did previously. We're faced with some very interesting challenges, but it can be done. I can tell you, even yesterday, I received an offer 10 days ago or 12 days ago now. I received an offer and they're being written differently. They're writing them in ways such as subject to the governor's order being lifted, and that the buyer is going to walk through the house or subject to the buyer walking through the house at that time in a certain time frame. So we're going to cover the ways that you still can do business. I see on Facebook a lot of people saying, well, I'm just going to join a book club. I can't work. And that's not true. We have to change the way that we're doing things, yes, but you still can work. You still can prospect. You still can even virtually show houses. I'm going to show you how you can incorporate the seller who can provide you not only photos, but maybe a walkthrough, and how you can actually very easily get that information from them, turn it into a link, and host things like virtual open houses with that information. So we're going to show you pretty much everything you need to know to conduct your business 100% remotely. But I do want to introduce a couple people who are helping us out. When you logged into GoToWebinar today, you probably noticed there was a little pane over to the right side. It's the GoToWebinar panel. It's probably minimized down at this point, but there is a little box in there that it says questions on it. You are welcome to type in your questions as we go throughout this presentation today. A good friend of mine and a great agent is actually manning that. Everybody, please say hello to Chris VanBelle.
Hi, guys.
Chris, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I've been a realtor for probably about 10 years now, and I am, for any Grosse Pointe Board people, I'm the president of the Macomb chapter of the Grosse Pointe Board of Realtors. And man, what a great thing we have going, being able to help agents out when we're all locked down.
I love it. And Chris is going to be manning your questions. We're going to cover a great deal of information. This is not meant to really be a hands-on class. And what I mean by that is we're going to kind of give you a couple little things from each product and some different tips and tricks that are going to work for you. But we have full-length classes that on every single thing that I'm going to show you today. So if we start going into lead generation, we have a lead generation class. If we start talking about doing a great CMA, we have a whole class on that. So I'm going to kind of touch at a high level on each one of these things, but keep in mind we have classes every single day here at MiRealSource. Debbie Fajardo has done a great job as our education director, getting classes on every single product that we have, right down to using taxes, right down to cloud CMA and using online forms and signatures. So if you go to MiRealSource.com or even inside of Paragon, you can see a full class list of everything we're offering. Did Dave make it in yet, Chris, or should we just go on without him? Have we seen him pop in yet?
I am still not seeing him. The only one I'm seeing in here is Debbie so far. That's all I've got.
All right, I'm going to take Dave's thunder then. We're going to start off with some exciting news. I always like to start off with some good stuff right now. One of the things you are now going to get as of June 1st, you are going to have information, basically what you're looking at this point on the map here, you are looking at our data sharing map. And this data sharing map shows you all of the listings across the state. Now, one of the problems I have as an agent is I want to have more information than my buyers. It's important to me that when my buyers are calling me, that I'm able to get information on listings across the state. And currently, there are 32,500 realtors in Michigan, and I'm happy to say now over 30,000 of them are part of the data share. But what I'm referring to over here on the left side where you see these pink dots, this is MISHRIC. And as of June 1st, as a MiRealSource member, you will now have all of these pink dots, meaning that you will now have coverage pretty much from coast to coast in Michigan. As you can see over here to the right, these are all the people who are now sharing. And we've got things like Northern Great Lakes Realtors. That's exclusive to MiRealSource. So our goal is to get to 100% of a statewide database where you can go in and you can see all of the listings throughout the state. We're getting very close. We're 92% there. I remember, Chris, when I got my license 22 years ago, I had to belong to 3 MLSs. And I had to pay 3 MLS fees and nothing talked to each other. So I had to put it into 3 different databases. It was horrible. It was like having to learn 3 different MLS systems. I'm happy to say that now with data sharing, you can put it in your home MLS and people all around the state will actually see it. Now, in addition to these, we've actually just signed agreements with 2 more. So we're getting very, very close to having data for you across the state. So that's very exciting, starting off with some good news. But then let's talk about why we're here. So obviously, due to the governor's order, we have now had to change the way that we do business. What it says is that basically we as agents are not considered essential. It tells you who is essential, but what it says is, if you look right down here, and I'll highlight it, usually Dave goes over this for us, makes it a little bit easier, but real estate activity that can be conducted remotely can still continue. So again, what we're trying to do is we're trying to do it differently. We obviously can't drive to the homes and do it as easily as we did before, but it still can be done. The next question that always comes up right around here is, well, what about title companies? What about inspectors? What about surveyors and appraisers? Well, those are all considered essential. So title companies can still close. Inspectors can still go in and do property inspections. Appraisers are still able to do their jobs. The only thing, there's some differences, obviously, in how we're doing business, but those parties are considered essential. Agents, again, cannot get in our cars and go show properties on our own. Another thing to be aware of is that the Macomb County Health Department, in Macomb County, if you are on a septic, you probably have all heard the well and septic orders. Well, there's some changes. You want to reach out and check with the Macomb County Health Department because obviously septic inspections cannot take place right now. That would be non-essential. And so they've given some dates through here, which not sure if even if those have been extended yet. So there's some changes. Obviously, we're having to ask more questions. We're trying to figure out who's essential, who's non-essential. But as you can see, inspections, closings, appraisals, those are all still taking place. So what we have to ask ourselves is, are we going to look at this as a vacation? Are we going to join a book club, or are we going to change the way we do business so that we can operate remotely? And that's what I'm here to show you. All right, so I'm going to close some of this out just to make it a little quicker. First, I want to show you that there are a lot of deals getting done every single day. If I go, let's say I change my market monitor to look at the numbers within the last 2 days. Well, in the last 2 days, 300 new listings have gone into the MLS. Down here, I can see that there are 134 price changes that happen. Now, I don't like to look at the pending numbers here, quite honestly, because this is the total number of pending. By the way, on Friday, this will be changing. You'll be able to see reflective of the day that you put in here. But this is kind of the total number of pending everywhere. So if you want a more accurate amount of how many properties went pending, I would suggest you use our hot sheet. Our hot sheet is located right under searches. And what I like to do is I like to say, I want to see how many changed their status to pending. And let's take a look. In the last, let's look in the last 7 days, there have been 841 properties that went pending. Let's just take a look at the last 1 day. 231 properties. I even have one I haven't marked pending that's going pending. 231 properties went pending in the last 1 day. So business is still being done. I am seeing more and more agents doing things like virtual open houses. I am seeing them do things like remote property showings with the help of the sellers, and that's what we're here to show you how to do today. So let's get started. I was talking to a very nice person this morning, did some one-on-one coaching, which we offer through MiRealSource, and he was saying, I just got my license. This is like the worst possible time to start in real estate. And I do not believe that. Some of the top producers in my own office actually started in 2007 and 2008. They started under fire in the big market crash, and they're top producers. They learned how to hone their skills when it was the toughest. If you're just starting, there are great ways to prospect. If you go right into Paragon, under our resources tab, you'll see all, I think of this kind of like our toolbox, if you will. This is where you're going to find all the great tools that we offer. But if I go under resources and I go to market stats here, market stats is a great way if you are looking to prospect, especially right now. This is a great way to do it with social media. MarketStats has a whole bunch of features. We're going to talk about a few of them as we go along. And we are, I promise, going to get you to virtual open houses and virtual property tours. But if you're just getting started, don't worry. You can use things like MarketStats to post a story onto social media and to actually capture names of people who are looking to sell their homes and get things like addresses automatically captured. So let me show you how to do this first. The story I want to tell right now is I want more listings. So in order to show people why it's a good time to list right now and not wait, because we don't know exactly how long this is going to be drawn out, I want to tell my story by going down to price per square foot. Okay, so I'm going to say I want to show people what the average price per square foot is. Now you can go into MarketStats and you can actually pick areas that you work. Like maybe I want to show what's going on in Macomb Township. Maybe I want to show what's going on in Sterling Heights. Maybe I also kind of want to paint a market picture of Shelby Township. By the way, if you work, I have a lot of friends who work waterfront. They're doing like St. Clair Shores and they're doing, or Grosse Points, and they're following that waterfront area. You can even draw your own areas that you want to see the numbers for. So don't feel like you have to use just what's in the system. You could take a map and actually highlight all the areas you work in and show what's going on there. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to tell my story on social media. Now, what's happening here is not telling my story because a homeowner isn't really going to be able to digest this easily. So what I want to do is I want to change this from a line graph to a bar graph. And I want to be able to quickly tell my audience why they should consider selling right now. Well, here's a really good reason. A couple of years ago, if they sold their house, they were getting $132 per square foot. Now they're getting $144 per square foot. So when you start figuring out your square footage, that makes a huge difference. You can change your time frame. So I could show this in rolling months or quarters or years, but now I want to share this to social media. I like to share it in a live graph so that they can click in, they can see the interactive numbers. So I'm going to click on live and share. I'm going to share this in a new window. Basically what I'm doing is I'm creating an easy to read graph that I now want to post to areas that I want to pick up new listings. Now I remember when I got my license 22 years ago, I would invest in those postcard mailers and it'd be like, $200-300 to do a big neighborhood, and it would go right from the mailbox to the trash can. And it didn't seem like it worked very well. Now you can boost for as little as $5. I think $5 the minimum I ever did. And you can boost to a targeted area. So again, if I had done my graph on Shelby, I might want to boost this out to Shelby Township or maybe Sterling Heights, wherever I was trying to target getting those new listings. Now you can share this in a variety of ways. As you can see, I can share this to 181 different social media sites, but really I'm going to click on Facebook because that's one that we generally use so much today. And I'm now going to share this out onto Facebook. And I'm going to write a call to action that's going to be something like sellers are getting more for their homes than they have in years due to this low inventory. Want to know what your home is worth? Just click on the link below or contact me, and I would put something in like my cell phone number. The Inman studies show that your call to action should be between 3 and 5 sentences, but not only do I want to post something out, I want to grab the lead. So not only do I want to give them something, but I now want to grab it in return. And by the way, you could post this to a business page. You could post it to a page you manage maybe for the office. In this case, I'm just going to make it nice and easy, and I'm going to post it out. But how do I now grab it? How do I capture that piece? Well, that extra piece is something that you get through MiRealSource. It's already created for you, and it's actually the lead capture in Cloud CMA. So I'm going to go back to our toolbox. I'm going to open up Cloud CMA. Cloud CMA has a lead generation landing page. This is done automatically for you, so there's nothing that you have to do. But if you go over to the right side where you see my mouse, you're going to see my photo. And I'm going to go to where it says lead generation. When I click on that lead generation, it takes me to my landing page. Now, by the way, you could preview your landing page. You could take a look at it. But really what I want to do is I want to copy the link because I want to combine the great graph that I just created. So I want to create that post, but in my post, I also want to simply paste this link in. So let me go ahead and show you the finished product. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click post to Facebook. And by the way, you could change this from all of your friends to maybe only your eyes the first time that you do it. So let me show you exactly what my post is going to look like. So right here, and I just posted this actually right before our class, sellers are getting more for their homes due to extremely low inventory. Want to know more? Want to know what your home is worth? Just click the link below or give me a call. Now, when they click into the graph, that's obviously going to show them the numbers. They're interactive, so they can click into the graph. But really what I want to do is I want to capture them. So if they click on that link below, here's what actually happens. It says, hey, do you want to know what your home is worth? Just type in your property address. So I'm going to type in house I just sold to kind of give you an idea. As they start to type, it will quick fill. And I'm going to click the magnifying glass. And it says, okay, great, we found your house. Here's a map of where your house is located. Just give us your name, your email address, and you can put an optional phone number in here if you like, or they can even put the square footage of their home, and then they click email my report. Now, it is not sending them, hey, your house is worth this. What it's designed to do is it's designed to send your marketing pieces that you have in cloud. Things like if you have your resume, maybe you do a lot of work on different boards. I know like Chris mentioned, he is on, what is your position at the Grosse Pointe board now? The Macomb chapter president?
I am the Macomb chapter president of the Grosse Pointe board, and then I sit on the executive board also.
See, so that would be a great thing to have in his resume set up in cloud. Now, behind the scenes, what just happened is a nice little CMA with an overhead shot from Google Maps got sent to them. Does not have a number. It just has a few random comps that they could find on Zillow or Realtor.com or other places like that, but it would have all Chris's great information about the boards that he sits on, who he is, a little bit about his company, whatever he puts in as his custom pages for cloud. Now, as soon as they click that submit, they also get your cell phone number, your email address, and it says for a more professional valuation of your home, just give me a call. The idea is that it's now given them something of value, but behind the scenes, I just got an email as the agent that someone wants to know what their home is worth. And now I can put together a real CMA and actually follow up with them. So even if you're just starting, I don't want you to be discouraged. It's still a great time. You can still be prospecting out there. We just have to now show the sellers why it's a good time to put their home on the market right now. Again, by doing a boost to a particular area, that's always a great idea because now I'm targeting an even larger or broader audience in that area. All right, so now let's talk about the challenges. So I can't go to drive to the property. How do I start now researching what is that property going to sell for? How do I do a real CMA if I'm not at the property? So let's talk about that next. The first thing I would do is I would go into the MLS and I would see if that property has closed. All right, and I'm basically now trying to do my homework because it's a little more challenging and because I can't get in my car and drive there. I'm going to go into the MLS and I'm going to start doing some research. If it has closed, I may want to look at things like photos. I can see clearly from this photo that this is a brick ranch, right? So I know when I'm starting to do my CMA, I'm looking for a one-story. I'm looking for a brick home. I'm looking for, looks like a 2-car garage. It definitely is attached. So I'm starting to build my CMA summary or my CMA criteria right from these photos. So I can see it's got a pretty spacious kitchen. I can see it's got a brick hearth and fireplace. So I'm kind of putting this together now. Now, I am in no means, by no means am saying, please steal these photos and use them in the MLS. I got that call recently and I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is I'm just using these photos for my CMA And I'm just using these photos for research purposes. We do not want you to steal anybody else's photos and build your listing off of them. I am going to show you how to get photos for your listing, but this is not the place we want to do that from. We just are trying to do our homework. All right, so I can kind of see a little bit about when this property closed, who sold it, what it closed for, if there were concessions. So I'm starting to build my information about the property. But the next thing I want to take a look at is I want to take a look at the municipality record. Now I'm just going to apologize. We give Brian a lot of ribbing about this, but we actually integrated BS&A right into the listings. But unfortunately, it was a government pillar that when he squished it onto the button now looks like a garbage can. So I apologize. Brian, our chief technical officer, is trying to make that a little bit longer so it looks more like a government pillar and a little bit less like a garbage can. But let me tell you what we did. We wanted to do something different and something exclusive to our members. A lot of times when you go in and you're looking for the BS&A record for a property, it will ask you to pay $2 or it'll ask you to pay $1.50. We were looking for a way that we could reward our members and we could actually take on that cost. So if you go to a property record and you click on that garbage can or government pillar, and you go in for Macomb County, if you go in for Genesee County, or if you go in for any of the gross points, it will waive that fee for you. Now, it waives it for you. We still pay it at MiRealSource, but it's a way that we can give back to our members. We're trying to even include more counties. We wanted to start off with these. But again, if you click that link and it normally asks you to pay that $2 fee, and you click that quick action link for Macomb County, Genesee County, or any of the gross points, we will pay that fee for you. So you will not incur that fee. When you're going into the BS&A record, we also do something different here than other MLSs. Other MLSs use a feed when they're going into the BS&A records. We actually use the live BS&A server. I had a situation where there were some property taxes that were outstanding on a property, and we were actually able to close that day because the the seller went in and paid the property tax in the morning, and we were able to show the title company that they were marked paid by BS&A that afternoon. So because it's live, when the assessor at that city went in and marked them paid, we could see that immediately. Where if it was a feed, it would have taken a day or two to catch up. So we actually give you the live BS&A server. And again, the goal is we'll waive that for Genesee, Macomb, or any of the gross points so you don't have to pay those $2 fees. And I know it's just $2, but let's face it, in our industry, all those $2 start to add up. When you click into that government pillar, it's going to take you right into the BS&A property record. This is where I want to continue to do my homework on the property. The city says that this was built in 1973. It has one full bath. It has one half bath. It tells me what the square footage is. It'll tell me, if there's acreage on the property. It'll tell me when the property closed. It will tell me who the owner of record is. So this is where I want to start doing my homework. I want to start figuring out what the lot size is here. I can see all of that. I'll scroll down a little further. It will show you things like if it went to sheriff's sale, that will be here. A lot of times if they refi or if it was an arm's length transaction, that will be here. I've got my garage area. I can see exactly how big the garage is. I can see if it was built on a basement. Many of the municipalities now include things like if there's an assessment on the property. Or you will also find information like if the water bill is outstanding. I just had a client, he's an out-of-state investor, and he had an outstanding water bill. So I wanted to go ahead and I wanted to include that right in his CMA so we could discuss that he was going to have to pay that, before closing. So all that information is now helping me build a profile. So I'm doing all of this research so that I can now figure out when I'm doing my CMA, how many bathrooms, how many, is it on a basement? Does it have a garage? I'm just doing my homework. So again, that BSNA record, that will look like this government pillar right here at the end, or as I say, a trash can. The other thing I want to do is I also want to check with,
Colleen,
yes.
we have an interesting question. I don't know if you know off the top of your head. Somebody asked, what does BSNA stand for?
I am so glad you asked. I have looked this up. Because I thought it must stand for something, right? It's an acronym for something, and it is just it's just the municipality software. It's the name of the software. It does not stand for anything. I have looked it up. I've Googled it several times. I have asked. I think I've asked about 15 different people, and it is just the software. There is no actual. Because I thought it was, is it like bureau services? Or I was trying to come up with something, but actually I have not been able to find one. I've been asked this question for years. If anyone else ever discovers, what the acronym was, I would love to know. But unfortunately, I have not been able to find it. I have just been able to find that it is the actual name of the software. It's a really good question, though.
Yeah, my wife, she's a lender. She looked it up and there was no meaning. And then there's somebody throwing out benefits, summary and analysis or board of standards and appeals. But, I'm going to go with no meaning.
I looked it
Good
up and
answer.
I have not been able to find, and I've looked quite extensively because it gets asked all the time. It's a really good question, and I have not been able to find anything to substantiate it. And I even asked Dave, are you on our call now?
Yeah, I'm here now.
Okay, good. The MiRealSource CEO, Dave Dries, just joined us. And Dave, you've never heard of what BSNA stands for other than the software, correct?
Yeah, I don't know what it stands for. All I know is that it's the software, the company that provides the software to the municipalities for their use with the assessing department.
All right. So again, we're doing our homework, we're researching the property, but another place that I want to do a little research is I also like to look at Realist. Now you're probably thinking, well, the municipality, that's the trusted record. And you're right, you want to look at that. But sometimes it's worth looking at both, and I'll tell you why. If I click on the Realist record, and by the way, Realist about 2 weeks ago got a facelift. It used to run off Adobe Flash, which caused it to be kind of slow, a little clumsy. It's actually much faster. As you can see, I just did that live. The layout, I think, is much nicer, way easier to read. But there's a reason that I also check this record. Many times you will see a discrepancy that will be highlighted. Like I had one recently that it had the home stories. The MLS said 2 stories. But the tax record actually said 1 story. And I kid you not, it was Sterling Heights, and I couldn't figure it out. And I'm looking in the MLS from the expired listing, and I can see it has 2 stories. Well, what had happened was the homeowner had put a second level, a kind of a dormer, on a brick ranch. So it was actually 2 stories now. Unfortunately, they had never pulled a permit. So sometimes you want to check to see if there are these discrepancies, and you'll see it says MLS versus tax. I like to just see if there's anything here that I need to ask the seller about. So it kind of gives me a chance. Yes, I always look in BSNA. That's the trusted record. That's where I'm getting my information. But I do like to check Realist just to see if there's anything that stands out or anything that has a discrepancy next to it. I want to be able to ask those questions when I'm talking to the seller. It will show you when the property was listed. It will show you the sales information. Like if it has gone to sheriff sale, you'll see that. If it had a refi in many cases, you'll see that here too. It'll give you the mortgage history. So I do like to check both. And by the way, not only do I check them, but I save both the BSNA record and the Realist record, and I save them right on my desktop, and I'm going to show you why in just a moment. So we've started doing our research, but obviously a big factor in how quickly the home sells, what the home sells for, is the condition of the property. And I picked this particular example today because I actually listed this home, and from the outside, as you can see, it is the cutest little dollhouse. Every little flower came up right in a row when I went to list it, little brick home. When I stepped in the door of this cute little house, It had blue shag carpeting and those huge 70s stick-on wallflowers, you know, like you see in the Brady Bunch. And I know they say it's coming back, but I promise you, it ain't ever coming this far back. So what happened was I had now based my CMA off of, oh, it's a cute little updated brick ranch, but I got inside and it had not been updated at all. So condition of the property obviously does play a very large part. So now I've got to rely, because I can't get in my car and drive over to the property, I've now got to work with the seller. I need that seller to send me maybe photos, or maybe even on the phone with me if that seller can kind of video the house so that I can ask some questions. Now we have a class that's called Virtual Open Houses and Virtual Property Showings. We show you how to do this step by step. So remember, I can't go into everything in huge detail today, but we're going to show you some apps where with one click you can send the link to the seller. They can take photos with their phone. They can take a video right with their phone, and it immediately comes back to you, the agent. And now this is stuff that you can review so you can see the condition of the home. So yes, is it as easy? No, it was really easy when we could get in our car and drive over there. But because of the shelter in place order, we can't do that right now. So the next best thing is obviously having that seller take the photos or take that video for us so we can start looking at the condition of the property. So now I'm looking at condition. Now I want to start figuring out, okay, what should that homeowner list that home for? Now I want to do a CMA. So now I want to take all this hard work that I've done in researching the property, and I want to build an easy to present comparative market analysis. Okay, so and I use Cloud. So I'm going to show you where you're going to start for that. If you haven't used Cloud before, it's also in your resources. But really the hardest part of Cloud is finding your comparables. So I'm going to do that in Paragon. So I'm going to do a single family or residential condo search. Now I did not want you to have to watch me fill out all of these fields. So what I did is I actually saved a search, which you can do, by the way. You can save searches that you run quite often. And I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to use my ABC search here. And so what I'm looking for is I'm looking obviously for the closed number. I want to tell the seller what their home is going to close for. Is it going to close for, you know, this with maybe concessions, or, you know, what are things closing for? What types of loans are they closing on? I want to give the seller as much information as I can. The other thing I want to do, because I'm a huge Floyd Wickman fan, he always said, always include your actives and your pendings. If you're going to sit down at someone's kitchen table, you better know what the man on the corner is listed for, because they already know. Another thing I like to do is I like to include one overpriced expired. The reason I do that is Floyd Wickman always would say, never tell a seller anything. Don't tell them anything. Show them everything on paper. Most of the time when I'm going to list a home, I get that seller who says, but Colleen, my home was built with golden nails and it is more, it's the most special home in the subdivision. And I want to be able to have in my CMA a overpriced expired that has been on the market maybe 300, 400 days. So when they say that, I can say, I know Mr. Schmagegi, and your home is quite lovely. Joe on the corner over there, he felt just like you did. He wanted to start off $50,000 higher. And look, he's actually been on the market for 312 days. He's had 3 price reductions, and he still can't get rid of the home. So I want to be able to show them those types of examples. I also like to, I hate the MLS calendars, I'm going to be perfectly honest. So I just like to go down. And in this area, I know an appraiser is going to look 6 months back. But obviously, you could adjust that. I'm going to take out the leases. I'm just going to be looking at sale properties. And I want to put in the criteria like that it's a 1-story. We know that it's a ranch. We saw the photos. And it has 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. I know it was built on a basement, remember, because we did our homework in the BSNA and Realist records. I know it has a garage, so I put 2 to 3 car garage. And then most appraisers, especially in this area, use that 20% square footage rule. This home happens to be 1,361 square feet. So what you're going to do is you're going to take 20% of that and minus it off. and then you're going to take 20% and add it on top of that number. So that's going to give us our square footage range, and that's the same range that the appraiser is going to use. So I'm basically telling this homeowner what they're going to get for their home. Now you're probably thinking, okay, but where is the property? How, got to stay within 1 mile, right? Well, that's where we're going to use our search by map field. Okay, so I'm going to click on search by map because I want to do just that. I want to make sure that I am staying within 1 mile of my subject property. So how you do that is you're going to go into that mapping field. You're going to type in the address, hit the magnifying glass, and then put in 1 mile and search radius. And that's what actually just happened, is it's actually finding comps within 1 mile of that red X or my subject property. Now, as you can see, there's kind of some clustering going on because these homes are very close to each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably zoom in just a little bit so I now can see each individual flag. If I want to see what that property closed for, I can simply click on it, and I can now go through each one of those comparables to make sure it's right for my subject property. A couple other things is I can't drive over to the property right now, and that always makes it a little harder, but I do want to see the condition of the subdivision, and I want my I want to give kind of an idea of, is this a small subdivision? Is it a large subdivision? Is it older? Is it newer? Are a lot of the homes in need of repair? What are we looking at? So keep in mind, over to the right, there's a little Google man. We all have seen him 1,000 times, but we rarely have used him. But in this scenario, I want to grab that little Google man. And by the way, when you drag him onto your map, it'll actually show you where you're about to set him in front of. So I can actually pick the address I want to put him in front of. When I let go, it's actually going to allow me to walk down the street. I can look at the neighbor to the right. I can look at the neighbor to the left. I can do a 360 view. I can now actually check out the neighborhood. I can see, maybe I want to know, is this on a dead-end road? I kind of want to see exactly where this home would be located. So I can see that there's a few ranches. Looks like that may be a quad there. We got a couple colonials, but I can actually now check out the subdivision. Now, yes, it's never good when it happens on trash day. We're all thinking that, I know. But the idea is I really just want to get a feel for the subdivision. I want to see, is it on a cul-de-sac? Is it a small neighborhood? Is it a large neighborhood? It's just giving me a little bit more research that I can put into my CMA. Okay, any questions, Chris? How are we doing on questions?
So far, so good. That is, yep, everything's all right so far.
I love this. All right.
Keep
So
the
another
questions
thing,
coming, though.
I'm sorry?
I just said keep the questions coming, though.
Yes, please. Chris is actually manning. He does a great job. He always, I never even get to see the questions. He's always got them answered before I even get there. So feel free to keep typing your questions in. Another thing, when you're doing your radius search, sometimes we're going to pretend for a moment that Chris just listed these 5 houses. We're going to pretend that this is waterfront. So congratulations, Chris. You've got 5 $1 million waterfront listings. But I'm now listing this little brick ranch way back here. If I pull in Chris's 5 waterfront listings, you know what it's going to do to my CMA? I'm going to have to go uncheck all of those listings, going to wildly screw up my numbers. I really don't want to do that. What I want to do is I want to exclude those. So I'm going to go up to the drawing tools that you find up to the left here. And I'm going to say, you know what, Chris, I really like these fancy waterfront listings you got over here, right? We're going to pretend that Dodge Park is actually Lake St. Clair or something along those lines. And I'm going to say, you know what, I want to exclude that particular area. Now, this is helpful too. Sometimes if you're working in Rivergate, kind of pops in my mind, right off of Hall Road. The subdivision, there's half new construction, and then there is half older homes that were built in the 40s and 50s. So if I want to exclude a portion of that sub, so I don't have to go deselect all those, I can actually draw an area on top of an area. There's one more step. So these 5 listings right here, right now, are still included. But if I go up to the edit button here, I can actually change it from include to exclude. And as you can see now, those 5 waterfront homes that Chris listed, they've been removed from my CMA. So I don't have to go in and deselect a bunch of comps that I really knew I was not going to use. And I'm still using that 1 mile radius. Now, a question that always comes up here, well, that's great for Sterling Heights, but what about the country? Well, of course, in the country, there are different parameters. I listed a house recently in Casco, and there wasn't a like house for miles around it. So in those situations, I encourage you to take our Cloud CMA class. We'll show you how to open up those parameters. We'll show you some of the rules that you'll need in more rural areas. I'm doing kind of a cookie cutter home today, just so it kind of makes sense and it's a little bit easier. But keep in mind, we have classes on every single thing that I'm showing you today. So as you're going through, we can show you exactly how to do this and exactly how to even price homes properly, even if you're in a rural area. All right, so I'm going to take off that extra shape there. So now I've got my criteria all added. I'm going to go back to criteria for just a moment. I've got my radius. I'm staying within 1 mile of the property. I've got my bedrooms, bathrooms, all that important stuff. I'm going to run my search. I have a little bit of OCD, so when these results come up, it always bothers me. You see the actives and the pendings, they're all blended in with the closed. It's like a big mess. I don't really love that. So keep in mind, you can use this like an Excel spreadsheet. If you actually click on the column heading, I now can sort them by actives, by closed, by pending, and it will put each status in its own, basically it'll keep those statuses together or compartmentize them for you. Now, as I go up to the top here, I can see my average list price was about $208. My average sold price about $204. Now, if you were doing a real life CMA, you would want to look at your comps. I want to mention that. Somebody called me after one of our classes and said, Colleen, wouldn't you open the comps? Well, absolutely I would. For the sake of time today, I'm not going to open all of these. I'm just going to go in and grab a couple in that suggested price range, just so you don't have to see me waste a lot of your time. But I'm going to go through and I'm going to grab a few comps just so you get the idea. I'm going to grab my pending down here. Now this still looks very messy to me. So again, with OCD, I kind of like everything to be in a nice little compartment. So I'm going to go up to the top and I'm going to hit this checked button. When I hit checked, I'm now seeing just what I'm actually working with in my CMA. Now I need the easy button, and most people don't know where the easy button is. So let me show you, because I was manually, when I started using Cloud CMA, I was going in and typing in these long MLS numbers, and what a terrible pain that is. There's actually a really simple easy button. All you're going to do is go to Actions. Please be careful here though, there are multiple CMA products integrated. Like if you click Add to CMA, you're gonna be very unhappy. That's unfortunately the Paragon CMA. I don't find it as easy to use. It's not as easy to use on the consumer side. I don't think it has the great look and feel that Cloud does either. So I want you to go all the way down to Cloud CMA. And there are two, by the way. If you were showing properties to a buyer, let's say these were all active listings, and let's say that there was not a governor mandate saying that you couldn't leave your home, or you could actually go show properties again. If you were actually showing buyers, you can create a buyer tour. But today, we just want to use the Cloud CMA. So we're going to click on that. And it's going to take all those MLS numbers. And by the way, you can see they're from different MLSs. So don't worry if you've got, some in there from RealComp, some in there from MiRealSource, some in there from other sources. It's pulling them all over for you. The next thing you want to do is you want to name your report. So I'm going to call this Sally Seller. And then I'm going to go right up to the address and I'm going to start typing it in, and it's going to quick fill. The reason that we want to do that is it's actually looking for the tax record for this property. So I'm going to quick fill, and you can see immediately it just pulled in the square footage, the bedrooms, the bathrooms, right from the tax records. Now, remember when I showed you the BS&A, I'm just going to shrink this down for a moment. I showed you that BS&A record. We were looking at that property. I thought maybe I'd still have it up here. Do I have it up here? Let me see. I'll pull it up. When you go into that BS&A record, remember how I told you it's a good idea to save that photo. So if you click on that garbage can looking link or that government pillar link, you can even use that photo if you're looking for a nice cover for your CMA. So as you can see, I went into the BS&A record. This is just a public document, and I can go ahead and I can actually capture that, and I could actually put that on the front cover of my CMA if I wanted. If you don't want to do that, don't worry. It'll actually take a Google overhead shot from Google Maps, and it will create a cover for you. So even if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. I'm just going to take some of this out so it's not so long on my cover. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click Fetch Listings. Behind the scenes, what it's really doing is it's now pulling in that tax data. It's now pulling in those MLS numbers, and it's building my cloud report for me. So don't worry, if you don't have a photo, it's still going to take a nice little overhead shot for you. The Cloud CMA is actually navigated by 4 tabs at the top. There's Criteria, Listings, Customize, and lastly is just saving it or publishing it. This screen that you're looking at right now is really your last chance as the agent to go in and take a look at those comps. So let's say I'm looking at this and I see this pending is really kind of outside the price that I want to recommend. Maybe I don't want to include that. I can deselect it, and you can see it grays it out, and it won't be included in my comps now. Maybe I want to go into this property and I want to take a look at the photos to see if it compares really to my home that maybe I've got a few closed in here. I want to dwindle it down a little bit. Does this one really look like my subject property? You can click on details and adjustments. I can go in, I can see the photos from the MLS. Now I can see there's some differences here. I can see this one has a detached garage. So it's probably going to have closed for maybe a little bit less than I think mine would have closed for. So it gives me a chance to go in and review them one more time. Another feature that they've recently added is when I started doing CMAs, I used to put Post-it notes on them. So I could tell the homeowner, well, this one closed because it had a detached garage, and it closed for a little bit less. Or maybe this one didn't have central air, or maybe this one needed serious updating and that's why it's closed for less. What I can do is I can still add those same notes. So home, I'm going to say something like home closed for less due to detached garage, whatever I want to say, you get the idea. But then when I'm going through my CMA with my homeowner on the phone, because remember I'm not there, I can go over these notes without missing anything. So I love that new feature that you can actually type it right in the description. So the description, just so you know, is coming over from the MLS comments. So I always put mine in bold here, just so it kind of separates it, and I remember to go over those comments with the homeowner. Okay. You can also put these in whatever order you wish. I remember my very first listing appointment, and my broker kept saying, get the price down, Colleen, get the price down, get the price down. So my very first 3 comps were like so incredibly low, I almost didn't get to show the other comps to the homeowner. So you can actually rearrange these in any order. It's just dragging and dropping them into the position you want. You can put a suggested price or even a price range here. There's also a place for a net sheet. So if you want to figure out your transfer tax, maybe what the commission would be, maybe you want to put in what your home warranty costs would be, you can actually add that in here. Now I'm going to be totally honest, I'm way too lazy to do that. So what I do is I do my net sheet in Transaction Desk, and I actually save it right into Cloud. The one in Transaction Desk generally will do all the math for you, so it'll calculate everything out, and I just find that it's a little easier. So that's kind of the nice thing about Cloud. You can bring in all those outside pieces, and I'm going to show that to you in just a moment too. Okay, so you can see really the first page of what we just looked at, it's really done for us. I don't have to do anything. The second page, I would suggest that you do one time. So what that means is you want to set up how you want your CMA to look. I want to make sure that my theme represents my company colors. If I was with, let's say, Century 21, I wouldn't want to show up with the Remax balloon on all of my documents, right? So you want to make sure your theme looks your company colors. You can also change your layout, how you want your comps to look. So I really like the photo with max data because it gives you all the MLS comments and you can have multiple photos, but some people really like a shorter report. So you may want to do the one where you've got 4 properties on each page, and they're sort of just in columns so you can compare them. So just personal preference. My personal preference is I like the photo with max data. All right, so now we want to make sure that we have all the pieces of our CMA that we want to include. Now, what I mean is you can bring outside pages into your CMA. So one of the things that I would always get asked when I would sit down with my seller is, well, Colleen, are you going to put my house on Zillow? Are you going to put my house on Realtor.com? Where are you going to market it? How are you going to sell this house? So I got so tired of answering that question every single time. I created a document that just says, I'm going to put you on over 400 different sites because that's what my broker syndicated to. And by the way, here's all of the top real estate sites. And I just went ahead and grabbed those icons. So I put that right into my CMA. So every single time I'm doing a CMA, it's front and center. Really, really easy to do. I also include the previous sales record. So I go into the MLS and I save that listing ticket and I include that sales record in my CMA. Things like I also always include the market stats. I really love this one. Market stats is a good way to educate the seller quickly on what's happening in their market. And it's so simple to do. It's literally 2 clicks. So let me show you that next. Today, when we started our presentation, we started off in market stats. That's where we did our graph that we posted out. So I am going to go back into Paragon to that same place. So I'm going to go back to our toolbox, our resources, and I'm going to click on market stats again. But this time I'm going to go up to the top and I'm going to look for the fast stats. Fast stats can be run on a particular city or a particular county, but I'm just going to click Macomb County. I'm going to do one today on Macomb Township. Let's take a look what's going on there today. When I click Macomb Township, and this is a really good one to use, a really good example, because if I go down to the inventory of home sales, okay, let's look at our home inventory right here. Our home inventory tells me that we're down 35% in the homes that we have listed. So in 2019, we had 253 listings. We only have 164. Hey, this is another good reason that the homeowners should be wanting to sell right now. But here's the better reason. Let's take a look at our average sales price, supply and demand, right? Last year, our average sales price, $316. This year, our average sales price, $335, almost a $20,000 increase. Why? Supply and demand. We don't have enough to sell. We're down drastically here, so we're getting a lot more for the homes. That's why, Mr. Seller, it's a good time to put your house on the market right now. I save this or download it, and I pull it into my cloud presentation. I want them to be able to see right within cloud why it's a good time, what's going on in their marketplace. And as you can see, I did that with 2 clicks, not hard. I also pull in things like that BS&A record. We have a whole class that will show you how to save things and then pull them into Cloud CMA, but it's a really simple process. Think of cloud like this. This is an easy way to think of it. Everything over here in the CMA report is what's currently going to be published in your report. Anything over here are things that you could add in. Now, there are some really cool things that they have that are like pre-written marketing pieces, like this commission distribution. I really like this one because remember, I'm going to be walking my seller through this over the phone. And every time a seller looks at that commission amount, you know what goes through their head? Oh my gosh, this agent makes so much money. I can't believe it. Most of the time, they don't understand that there is a buy-side agent, a listing agent, that they work at brokerages. So they have some really cool ways of using the graphs to explain that. So there's a lot of pre-written marketing pieces. Now, Chris VanBelle and I, we always have a lot of great dialogue right about now because Chris is kind of like me. Some people want all the information about them, and I call them their 20 pages of greatness. And if that's you, you can do that in Cloud CMA. I have a friend who has 5 pages of testimonials, I kid you not, from all his clients that, he goes in and he has all his clients write a little blurb afterward, and he has all those in his CMA. And he has, his resume and his background, and that's great. If you're an agent who wants to include that, that's terrific. You're going to have a little bit longer of a report. Chris and I think we agree that we're kind of more meat and potatoes. I want to show you how I'm going to get your home sold, why I'm the right person for the job, and what the price is really what it needs to be. And so you can make this as long and detailed as you want, or as short and brief as you want. If you want to add something to your report, you click on the plus and it floats into your report. You can maneuver it anywhere in the report you like. If you decide, yeah, no, I don't really like that, I can go ahead and click the minus and pull it right back out. So again, you're setting up your report to be just as you want it. Lastly, I want to click the publish button. One more thing that I really like about Cloud is you can even add in property photos. I listed a home recently, and it was an out-of-state investor. He had never been to the home, and the home was in really bad shape. It was actually tagged by the city, and there were renters in previously. So because he was never going to walk through that home, what I did is I grabbed my camera when you could before the governor's order, and I actually took pictures of that home. So what I would suggest is if the seller is sending you photos of the home so you can see the condition of the property, don't be afraid to put those photos in your CMA so that you can actually go through them. You can say, I see, the basement in the bathroom here, and can you tell me a little bit about, don't be afraid to put the photos of the subject property right into your CMA so that you can also ask questions and go over it with the seller. Now, my out-of-state investor, I was never going to see him, so we did this over the phone. We went through the CMA report, and he was able to see that the renters had kind of trashed this house. So I didn't have to tell him. I was literally able to show him, which is always a better process when you can show them the information. So lastly, we want to go ahead and click publish. And now our CMA is now being set up. Usually takes about 30 seconds to publish your CMA. And then you have to decide, okay, how do you want your CMA to be presented? Now, because I am not with the homeowner, I want to make it as simple as possible. So what I do is I actually send a link to the slideshow. And I'm going to show you that in just a moment. So right over here on every CMA, you can see how quick that was actually published. It took just about 10 seconds. Over here to the right, I can send a link to the slideshow, or I can send them a link to the PDF. Let's take a look at one I just recently did here. We're going to use this one. All right, so I'm going to open up the PDF version. I think for homeowners, the slideshow right now just makes it a little bit easier for them to go over the information. It's not quite so overwhelming. So I'm going to take a look at our finished product. So here is my front cover. By the way, I literally took this from the BS&A record that I showed you. So I literally just went to the BS&A record and put that on the front of my CMA. It's going to show a map of all the comparable properties. You can choose if you want to have this breakdown in there or not. There's that, where's your listing going to be marketed? Here's my market stats telling them the story of what's going on. Here's their BS&A record, the old property photo from when I actually sold them that property, and then the comparables. And as you can see, the comparables even include the interior photos. So if they say, yeah, but does Joe Schmagegi have a finished basement? I have a finished basement. I can actually go through those photos with them. So that's the PDF version, and you can send a link. That gives them a lot of information. And yes, that does include any marketing pieces that you've elected. There are some good ones in there. So if I wanted to tell them how many days on market are average, what compared to their listing price, what did the average sale net? Here's that commission and how it's broken down. So you can make it as long and detailed as possible, or you can make it as short and skinny as you decide. Now, if I go back down to Cloud, Because we want to make it super easy for the homeowner, we might want to do things like send the listing slideshow link. So let me show you that same report in the interactive slideshow. So I'm going to send them that link. I'm going to call them on the phone so we can go over and review it together. But what this is it's basically a condensed, easy report for them to view. So I know you can't see me, but I'm literally swiping my way through so they can look at this on a tablet, they can look at it on their computer, and it's interactive. So if they said, Colleen, Joe Schmagegi over here on Breckenridge, did he have a finished basement? They can touch that property and it takes them right to that home. If they click down, they can see what the sold price was and when it sold. But if they click down, they can even go through those property photos. They can blow them up. We can go through them. They can see the updates that were done. So there's it's a little bit easier for them to go through the report. It's not quite as detailed. Now, when you come to the end, you can still email them the full report, but it's a little bit less confusing for them. I think it's a very streamlined version. As you can see, that same information. And then at the end, I can put in their email address and I could send them the full report, because I'm kind of that person who always likes to leave a leave behind. I was kind of taught 22 years ago, you always leave them something. So I'm leaving them something right in their inbox that they can go back to. All right, any questions, Chris, before we go on to the next piece?
Nothing major. We do have people asking about the cheat sheets and all the stuff we're going over, if there's PDFs or stuff like that. I have sent a few links to the cheat sheets, but maybe we can go over real quick showing everybody where to get them, where to find them, and what exactly is there.
All right, perfect. So the cheat sheets, we have a whole folder, and what we did is we took those really complicated cheat sheets that we get from the technology companies that no one can really understand, and Debbie, our director of education, she gave a few to all of our trainers. She took some, and we rewrote them in a very simple, easy to read format. So right up here where you see MLS documents, by the way, nobody ever knows this is up here, it's kind of hidden. If you click on MLS documents, and I'm just going to use the MiRealSource one, I train all over, so I have a few, you won't see all this. It'll look nice and clean, just like this for you. If you go to the MiRealSource education, and by the way, it says cheat sheets right underneath, you can open up that folder, and these are those rewritten cheat sheets. So if you wanted to know how to use BS&A, you could actually just type in BS&A up here, or you could just click on it, and you can open a PDF, you can print it. We tried to make them short and sweet. Debbie did a great job of just circling or putting arrows exactly where you need to know, what you need to know, and where you need to click to make it happen. So I think you'll find they're very easy to read. Again, you can print them, you can share them with others, you can email them, makes it really, really easy. Another thing we just added last week is we are actually recording all of these classes because you're gonna, if you need something, let's say a month down the road and you're like, what did that lady say? How do I do that again? Right under our resources, you now have recorded webinars, class registration where you can sign up for other classes. So keep in mind, if you just go back to recorded webinars, you can watch this. It usually does take us about a day to get them up after the class happens, but you can go back and watch all the pre-recorded webinars right from here. So if you miss anything today or something didn't make sense, you need to see it again, remember, just go right back to those recorded webinars. Okay. So the seller sent you the photos. They sent you the property tour. You told the seller what the home was actually worth. Congratulations, they're ready to list with you. There's a couple things you need to know. One, you need to make sure that you get permission to use those photos and use that property tour. What I mean by that is copyright infringement is very expensive. So you'd want to make sure that whoever took the shutter or whoever took the picture, clicked the shutter, if you will, they own those property rights to those photos. That means that if you now use them and they are owned by someone else, you could have a legal issue. And by the way, copyright damages are triplicate, so you don't, and that's per photo, by the way, so you want to make sure you don't do that. What you do want to do is you want to make sure that you use a form that gives you permission or joint ownership rights to be able to do that. So let me show you what form I'm referring to. If you are using Transaction Desk, you will find it in the Forms library. It's called the Photo and Copyright Forms. So if you click that open, the one that we suggest is the joint ownership form. Let me show you what it looks like. It's a really simple one-page form that gives you, the agent, the rights to use photos and or video. And it says right here, pictures and or video. You're just going to put your name here as the agent or brokerage. And then the seller is going to sign, giving you joint ownership rights. So they're going to sign and date it at the bottom. This allows you legally to advertise the photos that they're taking. If you're a broker on this call today, I would strongly suggest putting this right into your listing package. Because when agents are listing homes right now, this is how they're getting the photos and how they're getting the tours. So if you put this right in your listing package, they won't forget to have this signed when they're getting the listing. All right, so let's talk about that. In my packet, my listing packet, my broker has that form already set up along with every form that's required for me to take a listing. So I want to go into my toolbox under Resources, and I want to add a new transaction in Transaction Desk. I want to give my transaction a name, so I'm going to call this 41539 Wessel. And I always put a dash with their names, just easier for me to see and identify. But I'm going to now pick that I want to use my listing package. But I don't want to have to go in and fill out a bunch of information. I want it to be imported from the tax record. So I'm going to go to Import from RealList. So it's going to say RealList, MiRealSource next to it. But I don't want to have to look up the tax ID, so here's a little cheat. If you go right over to the magnifying glass, you can do the county. So I'm going to say property resides in Macomb, the street number, and the root street name. What I mean is you only want to fill in 3 pieces of information here. If you start adding the city and the zip code and the last names, I promise you almost always you will get an error because tax records are very exact. So what I would recommend is using just these 3, the county, street number, and the root street name. This happens to be Wessel Drive, but you will have better luck if you leave off the drives, the ways, the circles, the boulevards. The reason is because they're so exact, if the tax record has drive spelled out and you put DR period, it won't pull. So just use the root street name, hit search tax data. You can see almost immediately it pops up. I want to select it. And I want to start my transaction right from the tax record. Brokers, if you set up your listing packages, it will automatically know that your agent is going to be a listing agent. Now, if they're representing both sides of the transaction, they can select that as well. But I'm going to say for today's example, I'm using a listing package. I am the listing agent, and I'm going to start my file. There's a couple things in here that are going to help you immensely now that you're not driving to the property. One of the questions I always get here is, Colleen, how do I get the seller's disclosure statement? Do they have to like mail it? I'm like not even happy I have to open mail right now. And the answer is no, it can all be done electronically. So if you're looking at this screen, I didn't have to fill any of this out. It knows it's a residential listing. It's got the address, city, county, zip code, subdivision, year built, lengthy legal description. All this information is flowing over right from the tax record. So I have very little to fill out here. I want to just put in probably what my listing price is going to be and what they want to include. I'm going to jump over to step 3. Another advantage of pulling in from the tax records, it actually pulls in the seller's information. So I actually have who owns that property already auto-filling into my forms. And many of the forms that you'll be using are even pre-tagged. So the system is smart enough to know where that seller is even going to be signing. So I have very little to do. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And the seller's disclosure statement, let's go there first. Now you can see in my long list of forms here, everything my broker requires and my alternative joint ownership copyright form, everything's dropped right in here for me. So you see, I didn't have to do anything. My broker set up all the forms that I need. If I go down to the seller's disclosure, let's take a look at that. The seller's disclosure, as you know, is never filled out by an agent. It's only the seller who's going to fill that form out. But I don't want to have to email it to them and now they have to print it. They might not have a printer at home. I actually want to send it in an open format so they can properly fill it out just from their email. But I want them to have a really easy experience. I'll actually show you how easy it is for the seller to fill out. When I'm sending this, I'm going to go up to File. I'm going to hit Send, and I want to send this as an email, but I want to do one more thing. I want to open this up so that they can fill it out. So I'm going to send my seller's disclosure in an open format. And how I do that is I'm going to type in their name. So my seller, we'll call this Sally Seller. And I'm going to put in Sally Seller's email address. And I probably want to give it a subject line they're going to recognize. Now, when this comes to your seller, it does not come from Transaction Desk or Authentisign, thankfully, because they don't know who the heck that is, right? They know you, so it comes from you, your name, and your email address. So I'm going to say in my subject line, this is the seller disclosure statement or listing documents, if you will, whatever you want to call it. And I put in a little personal message. Here's where I do the adjusting. Everything else that I send out of Transaction Desk, I send in a locked PDF format. But this, I want to send in an editable format. You can even put in like an expiration date. Maybe I want to have the listing in by Friday, so I'm only going to give them until Friday to fill it out. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit Send, and it's going to provide the subject line coming from me in an open format that they can now fill out. Okay, so really, really easy. Another challenge is we're not driving to the office right now. We're not driving anywhere right now. So there are two schools of thought of adding listings to the MLS. What I mean is that some brokerages do not allow agents to directly input their listings into the MLS. Some brokers only allow their admins to make the listings live because they want their office to review them and make sure they follow all the rules and policies. And so that's fine. If you are filling out a transaction, what you want to do, and I actually did this, I think it's on my, I forgot which transaction I did this last on. I think it was, let's see, this one right here. Couldn't find it. All right, so my Marshall listing, I went in and I filled out the data sheet right within Transaction Desk. And I wanted to use this one because I know you don't want to see me fill out all these required fields, but I go into the data sheet and I fill out the basic information for the property that would be required in the MLS to input a listing. So things like what's the price, what's the area, all the base information. Everything in red is what's required to make a new listing in Paragon. But instead of doing all of this and now going and sending this to my admin or emailing this to my admin, and then she's got to rekey all of this in, I just want to go to upload a listing. When I click upload a listing, what it's really doing behind the scenes is it's sending all that into Paragon. What it's doing is it's creating a partial listing for me or for my admin right in the Paragon system. So I'm going to go up to listings. Let me show you what happens. Now, if your admin enters listings, you would want to call your admin and let her know that you've just submitted your partial listing. And then your admin is going to go to a screen that looks like this. She's going to find your name. And then she's going to find that listing. And she's going to maybe add in your photos, maybe add in your property disclosure. She's going to review that information. And when she hits save, that listing is going to go live in the MLS. So this is where if you have those seller submitted forms, she's going to add, or seller submitted photos or tours, she's going to add all of that in right here. Now, if you are an agent entering your own listings like I do at my brokerage, I'm going to do that same process. I'm going to go in, I'm going to upload that listing, I'm going to make this partial, and then this is where I'm going to add my photos that the seller supplied for me. And I want to show you one other thing. Once you have the tour of the property from the seller, I want to go down to where it says compensation and tours. And I want to add that tour right in. Now there are 4 spots for tours. Okay, so when the government's order is lifted, so when the governor's order is gone and we can drive over there, you could go and do a nice little tour of the property yourself. I recently just did one on my Marshall listing where I stood in front of it and I said, "Hi, I'm Colleen with ABC Brokerage, and let me take you on a tour of my new listing. Here's my cell phone number. I would love to help you." You can put those tours with your information in what we call the branded tour. There's 2 spots. You could have 2 different branded tours. Maybe you've got one from like Circle Picks. Maybe you've got one from a property virtual tour. But right now we can't really do that, right? We can't get in our cars and drive there. So when the seller sends you the unbranded, meaning there's no contact information of any kind, they're not talking about you, the agent, they're just walking through the house, you would put that in the virtual tour or video tour. Okay, so that's unbranded. It contains no contact information, but it's still going to allow people in the MLS and on the Collab Center and out in syndicated sites, it's going to allow them to see your tour of that property. So again, the seller's going to supply you that. If you want the details of how to get that easily from the seller, how to turn it into a link using YouTube, we actually show you that step by step in our virtual open house and virtual property class. It's an 1.5-hour long class, and it's listed right under, if you go to resources and you go to class schedule, you can actually sign up under that class registration, and we'll show you how to create the links that you can put here. All right, this is a good spot for questions. Chris, do we have any questions?
Nothing. I get you're answering them as you go. So far everything's blank.
All right, I love that. All right. Okay, so we've now got our listing in. It's live in the MLS. We want to start promoting it. There's a couple different ways, obviously, to promote it. We can do things like scheduling open houses. Now, we can't actually have a real open house at the property, but remember, we could have a virtual open house right from our living room. Now, yes, you can't go to the property and do it right now, but that doesn't mean you can't host a call where people can ask questions about the property, where you can show the tour that the seller sent, where you can focus on different photos. I strongly recommend doing that. One of the ways to do that would be to host a virtual open house using Facebook events. So you can schedule a Facebook event, and what I recommend is doing that with a Zoom call. By the way, Zoom has free accounts. The only difference is that on a free account, you get up to 40 minutes. So what I would recommend is scheduling a Facebook event using the free software that Zoom has to offer, which gives you a call where you can share your screen, you can go into Home Snap, you can kind of walk them around, and you can do that as an event. We'll show you step by step how to do that in our virtual open houses and virtual property showings class. But you still can do open houses and promote the property. Another way to promote that property would be with the single property website. Where you find that would be under your resources tab. So if you go to resources, again, your toolbox, you'll find the single property website under list track. So let's take a look at that. This, by the way, is automatically done for you. It will track how many eyeballs are coming in on your listings. But if I go to my listings, and by the way, these are already created for you. You have nothing you have to do here. You're just simply going to click open the property website. So click on the link. If you had, before the governor's order went into place, if you had gone to the property, this would contain your branded tour. Now, obviously, we can't do that just yet. Because of the governor's order, this would now have my seller tour. Now, I actually listed this right before the order went into effect. So if I click on my virtual tour in my single property website, what you're going to see is a video that I did. I did this all on my phone, by the way, so it's nothing fancy. It was right when things were starting to change. I introduced myself. I walked them through that property, and it's literally just me introducing myself. Took me about 3 minutes to do.
Does have a gas fireplace. And then just off to the left, we have a full first floor bathroom.
Now, if your seller is doing this, again, they don't have to narrate it. They just got to get you that footage. And we'll show you again in the class how to do that. But we just want them literally to walk through and kind of give a tour of the property. And then if they are sending that to you, it will be on the single property website. And then when you are sending out information about this property or maybe posting it to social media, the advantage of using our single property website is it's only showcasing you and your other listings. I'm always kind of amazed right now when agents are promoting things from Zillow or other third-party sites. And it's like you're taking all of your photos and your hard work and your comments and descriptions, and you've just given them to the agent who bought that zip code, right? When you share your single property website, by the way, which is really easy, you just use these little share icons over here. It's sharing you, your other listings, your success stories. You're not actually giving your lead away. So this is a really good way to share, especially onto social media. And it will have the information about your property. They can go in, they can see, you can see the captions or labels and descriptions within the MLS. I really like this because the more information you're giving them, especially if the homeowner has taken the photos, you want to let them know. This is right outside their door here. You want to let them know as much information as you can. So use those labels and descriptions on the photos within Paragon, because those carry over right to the single property website, right to many of the sites. So again, things like this is a new master bathroom, things like all the stainless steel appliances come with the home, tastefully decorated. I really recommend having labels and descriptions on all of your photos right now, because sellers are not generally expert photography people. And I want to let them know, what are they looking at? Is this a basement bathroom? Is this on the second floor? So using those labels and descriptions are going to help a lot as they're going through each one of these photos. All right. So the good news is we've now promoted our property. We also want to set up times where we can go in on our properties and still work with other agents. And what I mean is I want to schedule things like open houses in Paragon. So I think I've got one on this Marsha property. Let me quickly go there. Marsha. I want to put in times that agents can talk to me directly. So what I've done is I have, yes, added my virtual and video tours. The ones that show up here, by the way, the ones in the MLS are, of course, not branded because when it goes out to your clients, of course, we don't want them seeing any contact information except you, their agent. But what I did is I went ahead and I scheduled an open house, a virtual open house, which I'm going to be doing from my living room. And when they click on yes, the live streaming virtual open house, it's going to give them the call information for Zoom. So they can actually schedule a time to talk to me, and I can actually walk them right through that virtual open house. So I can be talking to that buyer's agent, and I can be discussing, things like the tour that the seller sent. I can, on HomeSnap, show them the disclosures. I can go through a lot of that information with them. Now, yes, I still want to have an event scheduled, probably a Facebook event with my Zoom call information for about 30 minutes, because I still want to try to pick up new buyers who might be interested in this property. So keep in mind, I can schedule virtual open houses within Paragon. I can schedule virtual open houses also right on Facebook so that I can still talk to people about my listings. You can also block off time within showing time if you wanted to do property tours. So let's say you want to work with other buy-side agents and you want to answer their questions directly at certain times of the day. I can go into maintain my listing. I can go into showing time and I can block off available periods of time. Maybe today between 12 and 12:30, or in this case between 2 and 2:30, I want to go in and I want to block off time to answer questions. So I can go in, set up those times I'm going to be available. I can change where my lockbox information generally is put. And I can say, okay, I'm going to host a virtual property showing between 2 and 2:30 today. And I can put my Zoom video call link right in here. That means if they schedule a virtual property showing or they go in and try to schedule a showing, they're immediately going to get that Zoom call phone number for that specific time. And now we can actually walk through that property together and I can actually take questions on the property. So not only can you schedule virtual property showings with buy-side agents, but again, you could also have virtual open houses, and you can do that through Paragon or a Facebook event. Any questions on that? We show you step-by-step more of that in the virtual property showing and virtual open house class. We'll show you how to do everything we're talking about step-by-step so that you can set your properties up according. Any questions here? This is usually where we get the most questions, I think, Mr. Chris. Do we have any questions we need to address here?
Nothing. Everything is looking good. I've answered most of them. We had one person ask if anything we offer is Con Ed. I just responded that, you know, right now it's really tough to get things approved for Con Ed. What are your thoughts on that?
You know what? That's a Dave question.
No, we don't have anything. None of our classes are approved for Con Ed. And right now, the classes that we're going through have been changing so frequently. I mean, this class that Colleen is doing today has had minor changes to it, I would say almost on a daily basis. There'd be really no way for us to offer that. So no, we don't have any plans on making these Con Ed approved. And I anticipate probably next week, these classes will change again because we're expecting changes to come down from the governor next week.
All right. So one other thing I wanted to show you real quick is Lisa Harris, who is a great instructor for us as well as an agent. She was kind enough to let me tag along. Her seller had supplied some video that she wanted to talk to a co-oping agent about. The co-oping agent was thinking about writing an offer. A lot of people send me feedback after the class and they say, well, why would anyone write an offer right now? Why wouldn't they just wait until, here's the deal. There is not enough inventory out there. I myself have some buyers who've been looking for a really long time. They've lost out in multiple offer situations. When they see a good house, they do not want to lose it. And so I myself have even gotten purchase agreements written that it's subject to the buyer walking through the property after the governor's order is lifted. How it was worded now, and again, you want to check with your broker on the exact language you want to use, but the one on my purchase agreement, on my listing that came in, it said that the property, it was subject to the buyer coming through the property after the governor's order was lifted, and that the buyer would do that within 7 days after the governor's order was lifted. So they can be written different ways. See your brokerage on how it should be written. See how the language should flow. But I want to show you this. This was 2 agents. She was holding a virtual property showing. Her seller had supplied the walkthrough of the home, and now she was discussing this with the co-oping agent. So I just did a real quick little video tour here that you can kind of see how it went down. She set up a time in showing time. that he could schedule the appointment, which he did,
Virtual tour for us.
sent
I'll
them.
give you a walkthrough, and if you have any questions, I'll just let me know.
Now she's doing this via Zoom.
Front door, newer built home. You will notice we've got newer windows as we walk through, keyless entry. To the left, we have a nice formal dining room, also newer windows, also newer flooring, freshly painted. Got a nice open foyer. And if you look to the right, I've got a living room with also newer flooring, newer windows.
It looks like the whole house has been updated. Do you know the date of any of the updates at all?
Yes, I do. Actually, everything has been updated within the last couple of years. Windows were about 5 years ago. I know they just redid the basement.
So she's literally walking through the buy-side agent through the home. Now, what I love about what she did here is as they got a little further along, I'm going to kind of just fast forward through this to get you through to the part I want to go to. She incorporated, was really smart. She incorporated HomeSnap so that she could show him the property disclosures. She could actually even walk him through the neighborhood. I thought this was really smart of her. So watch how she did this.
I've got my documents on HomeSnap.
Colleen, real quick, we have a question. Who is talking in the video? Is it the seller's agent and the seller walking through the home? Is it Lisa talking in that video?
Great question. So yes, what happened was Lisa is the seller's agent. The seller had previous to the call sent her the walkthrough of the home. So she had the video footage from the seller. The other gentleman voice that you hear is the agent who was thinking of writing the offer. So you have two agents, the sell side and the buy side agent, talking about the home. The seller had previously sent in the footage, so she's literally kind of walking them through. They're talking about the room sizes. Matter of fact, when they were talking about the bedroom, he said, "Oh my gosh, that's such a big bed, and it still looks like a really large room." So they're literally discussing the house and the updates together. Then what happened is Lisa then flipped over to screen share what was on her phone. By the way, she did this whole thing on her phone. There's no video edited, it's just she literally is on her phone. She now shares her HomeSnap screen, and that's where we are right now. So now she's
on the street view. So let's take a look at the documents first.
So she's going over the seller's disclosure with the co-oping agent. She sent them
over to you. You can also access them yourself on HomeSnap. So the seller's disclosure and everything is in there for you. If there's any questions at all, please let me know. And let's take a look at the street view. We can actually take a look at the house itself and kind of walk through without actually, being outside.
Now, the cool thing is the street view, Lisa walking down the street, Lisa did that from her couch. So Lisa, the agent, is at her home. She's never leaving. But because of that street view, she can literally just move her phone, angle her phone to the left or right, and literally walk this agent down the neighborhood streets. So all of that is included in your HomeSnap account. So I thought it was really smart how she put all of that together and literally provided the answer to that buyer agent, all his questions, and literally showed him the neighborhood and sent him the disclosures all from her phone in HomeSnap, which I thought was really, really smart. Those of you who know Lisa, you can't help but love her. She's been a trainer at MiRealSource for 10 years. But it's as simple as screen sharing on your phone. It's literally clicking a button within Zoom to go through HomeSnap with that other agent. So I thought that was kind of cool. Chris, did I properly answer the question that was asked? Is that what they were asking?
That sounds good to me. She just said, yes, thank you.
Perfect. Awesome. A couple of the things that we are changing at MiRealSource to make this easy. So we want this to be as easy on your sellers as it possibly can be. So we are temporarily suspending some of our policies and rules to make that happen. And Dave, are you on the call? Do you want to talk about some of the things that were the temporary active no-show, as well as possibly the room measurements?
Yeah, right now, temporarily, while we're asking the seller to take the photos and take the video, we have made it so that they don't have to measure the rooms. Normally, that's a required piece of information. Currently, you can enter a active listing without the room dimensions. So that's a change. Another change is normally you would have to, for an active listing, have the ability for having in-person showings. Because of the governor's order, that's temporarily been waived. So you don't have to have a in-person showings for an active, so it can stay active. We do highly recommend that you have a video and you have photos with labels and descriptions. We also require that you have in public remarks that it is not able to be shown and it's available for a video tour or a virtual showing. And we also want you to put in the agent remarks that you can invite them to make an offer subject to the buyer viewing it at an inspection at a later time. And then the other thing is making sure that you put all that stuff in to showing time. And Colleen, did you show them where to put it in showing time yet?
I did.
Okay.
Yep. So having, and once you've added in your links to your tour, remember, use that single property website. Make sure that you have that. If you decide to host a virtual open house, make sure you use things like the Facebook event, and we'll show you how to do that. Make sure that you have times that you can block off on your listing where you can still take questions and work with those agents and give them those virtual property showings. So we've kind of gone all through that. And by the way, again, we'll walk you through step by step doing that in our virtual open house and virtual property showing class, because we know it's a lot. We're kind of giving you a lot right now. We don't want to overwhelm everybody. We will show you how to get all of that information, how to set up your listings, how to get those tours in there, and even some great apps that allow your sellers to get you that those photos and that video walkthrough very easily, so it's not a strain on the seller. All right, so okay, great. Oh, okay.
Well, I just wanted to say I would highly recommend everybody take that class. When is that, on Thursday?
Let's see when the next one is. Give me one
I think
second.
it's on Thursday. Yeah.
Yes, it is Thursday at 1 o'clock.
So Thursday at 1 o'clock, definitely take that class. The other thing I would highly recommend is doing some practice virtual showings and some practice virtual open houses, and try this with your family, try this with your other colleagues at your brokerage. Try it, practice it, so that you're not trying to do it for the first time ever with a real live buyer. So give it some practice.
Hey, Colleen,
Yes.
real quick, we just had somebody ask if you could go back and show where to find the info sparks and the stats real quick.
Sure. So you're going to go back into Paragon for that. So let me just change my screen here. To go into market stats and to go into the fast stats and info sparks. Go back to the beginning. You're going to go right.
Specifically for the price per square foot information.
Oh, price per square foot. Okay, we're going to go to our toolbox, which again is under resources. You're going to go into your market stats. You're looking for the price per square foot example that we did in the beginning. If you go to price per square foot, and you can do average or median, and then you're going to go right up to the top and add in the area. So I can add in, again, you do something like maybe Shelby, maybe Sterling, and you can add areas all on the top.
Hey, Colleen, I got a question for you. How many years back can you go?
I think it was it 5? I think it was 5.
Can you go back 5?
Oh, 10. I'm sorry. So you can do 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, or 10 year. I thought it was 5, but
what does 5 year look like?
Do you want me to put a couple in here and just kind of create it?
Yeah, I like 5 years better. It's a better graph.
Okay. So we'll do our example with 5 years. Sterling with Shelby. Let's do, what was the other one I used? I think I did Macomb. And again, you can draw your own areas too. Don't be afraid to do that. And then this will give you the line graph, but we want to change that. We want to make it easy for people to read. So you can do bar graph, and obviously you can go to the right and you can go to the left.
That's what you like. I like the line graph better myself, but you like the bar
Yeah,
graph.
I'm a line. It's funny every time I see her go to the bar graph. I'm a line graph kind of person.
I'm a line graph guy too.
All right, all right. If you guys like the
Um,
line graph better, here you go. But yes,
Somebody
you can do
asked if you can share this on Nextdoor. I know we can share links. I know we can print as a PDF to your computer, but I think you probably can, right?
yes, I've shared links on Nextdoor. I'm a huge fan of that app. So yes, you would be able to share this as well. Okay, and then fast stats again are just up here. And don't be afraid to create your own areas. Like I said, I love that. Especially if you're working, let's say, just over all the gross points and you want to maybe just highlight waterfront. You can literally just draw the area you're trying to tell the story for, because that's what you're doing, right? You're building a story. Why do I want to tell it from just one small area when I cover a huge area? Or so you can draw your own areas. You do a lot of cool things by creating my areas and then telling the story for that specific area. Okay, so congratulations, you promoted the property. You held a virtual open house. You had virtual property showings scheduled through showing time. You put open houses in Paragon, you covered the bases, and now you've got your offer coming in. So now we want to take that offer and we want to use the tools to counter it virtually to send it everywhere it needs to go. So I'm going to show you that in Transaction Desk. And yes, I am aware that some people use different forms products, and that's fine. I'm going to show it to you because this is what we provide as a member benefit here at MiRealSource. And I'm going to say that we just got an offer on our Cuddle property here. What I want to do is I want to utilize the counteroffer tools that are here. So I want to bring that offer from my email right into my documents box. Really easy to do that. You're going to go into documents. Remember, forms are the fillable forms, the forms that are all set that you just fill out. But anything outside of Transaction Desk, like maybe title work or maybe a home warranty form that you just got or somebody's offer that they wrote, if I have that and I've got it in my inbox, I want to bring it into Transaction Desk. So I'm going to add a new document. I'm going to click on that plus, and it creates a drag and drop file. Now, a little cheat is I kind of just minimize my screen a little bit. And I'm going to say, I'm going to grab this document. I'm going to say that this is my purchase agreement, and I'm going to just drag it right onto that drag and drop strip. By the way, you can do 20 files at one time, and you can see how fast I just added that document right into my transaction. So now I have my offer, and actually I just got a real life offer on this, so we're going to use that one. I want to go in and I want to counter it. I don't want to have to scan things and move things around, and I don't want to grab a pen and make it look all messy. I just want to counter it electronically. So I'm going to use the markup tools right within Transaction Desk, and I'm now going to make those changes to the document. Now, when it comes to changing documents, I received, a little bit of hate mail on this, so just want to throw this out there. Follow whatever your brokerage policy or your association's policy is for this. We had some people in from one of our vendor MLSs, and they explained that where they are never, ever, ever, apparently under the penalty of death, they are never allowed to change a document or mark up a document. They have a special addendum that everything goes on. So please follow your brokerage policy or your association policy on changing things. Where I am at my brokerage, if I were to mark something up, like let's say Chris just wrote this offer and he wanted the stove and fridge, but my seller said absolutely no way. We can mark it up at my brokerage, and of course the buyer and seller would have to initial those changes, but see your broker on what your policy is. Now I'm looking at this, and Chris wrote this, and he's asking for $90,000. Now my seller says they're not going any penny below $92,000. So I'm going to go up to this text box, and I am going to write out 92. By the way, you can make these fonts larger or smaller if you need to. And I'm going to move that onto my line. Now, if I lay this over the 90,000, look how terrible that looks. It looks like just a hot mess. And again, I have a little OCD, so that would be a problem. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to right click on it, and I'm going to change this from transparent to white. So I'm basically now creating a nice new contract with these changes. Again, my buyers and sellers would all need to initial any changes. But let's say I now want to change this to 92 where it says 88,000, same concept. I'm going to use the PDF tools. And again, you can make them larger or smaller. And I'm going to lay that into place where those changes would need to be. Another problem is if I now change this and I'm getting everybody to initial and sign it, if I have sent my buyer, let's pretend we're on the buy side for a moment. If I've sent my buyer these documents, I'm probably sending the purchase agreement along with maybe his buyer's agency. Maybe I have a confidential checklist where I put their contact information. I'm usually sending all of that to the buyer at one time. But now I want to take all those buy side documents and I want to send Chris, the co-oping agent, just the pieces he needs for the his side of the transaction. But I don't want him to have my confidential buyer's agency agreement or his contact information. I want to slice those out. That's when we would use our document slicer tool, which is right over here to the left. Kind of looks like a page with 2 pages ripped out. So I'm going to say, I want to actually slice up that document. So I'm going to show you, and you can do it right from here. I'm not going to save those changes. You can do it right from opening the document, right here on the document, or you can do it from a change document that maybe you've modified. So I'm going to say, I want to go into the document slicer tool, and I want to just send Chris page 1, page 2, page 3, and page 4, let's say. So I'm selecting or highlighting just those 4 pages, and I don't want to alter my original, so I'm going to save it as, and I'm going to say this is my counter offer for Chris. I want to go directly into that document, and basically it's going to take that 11-page document down to just the 4 I want to send. Now I've kept my original intact. I just want to email these 4 over to Chris now as the co-oping agent, okay? So really easy to slice off a document. You don't have to print them all out and separate them, especially if you don't have a scanner at home. Remember, we're trying to do all of this remotely. So we've gone ahead, we've used our counteroffer tools, we've sliced up the document, we've sent it to the co-oping agent. The question usually comes up here about EMDs. Well, what if I have an EMD? How do I turn that in now? Well, that is kind of brokerage specific. Many brokerages are now going to online EMD submissions where a link is sent to a buyer and they can put in their routing information over secured lines. It can change from brokerage to brokerage. Some brokers still want the check, mailed in. So you have to check with your broker to see what your brokerage policy is for EMDs. The other thing I want to show you is now you've got an offer prepared, you've marked it up, you've done your counter offer changes, your buyer or seller needs to sign it. That's when the AuthentiSign comes in. That's our signing. So AuthentiSign is really 4 simple steps. And where you start is the pen over here to the left. There are a couple statuses. If you see these gears, let's say I just got a call from my buyer and he said, Colleen, I never got the PA you were sending me. And I look here and I see the gears. I know it never made it to the buyer from me. It's still in my world. It's in the wizard here. If I see the lightning bolt, I know it's waiting on 1 or more parties to sign it. And over here, if I've got this blue ribbon, I know everybody has signed it and it's now been returned to my Instanet file and it's also emailed me a copy as the agent. So very simple to start a signing. You're going to go to the ad. By the way, we have a whole class on just AuthentiSign, so don't worry. What you're going to do is where it says it's optional, don't think of that as optional. Think of you want to marry the file. So I want to marry the file we created today with the documents that they're signing. So I'm going to say PA for signing. and everything that they sign now gets deposited back into the file. It's 4 simple steps. It's kind of like a wizard, and it won't let you fail, I promise. What I'm doing is the first step is signing in line. Obviously, if my buyer hasn't signed it, I don't want it to go to the co-oping agent yet, right? I want it to be signed in the logical order of real estate. The second thing is who's signing. Maybe you witness your contracts. Maybe you want it to be delivered directly to the co-oping agent. So I'm going to pick them in my list of contacts. What you can see is my contacts are already here because it's coming over right from what I did in the transaction desk side. So really, if you remember this, I call it do all your heavy lifting in transaction desk. Fill out your forms, add your contacts, because then when you go to Authentisign, it's a piece of cake. All you're doing is picking who's signing and what they're signing. I like to tell everybody in these times, we're doing everything remotely, so just leave it remote. If the governor's order gets lifted, you can actually do in-person signing. You could set up an attorney to review the documents ahead. And there's also the CC rule. That is not like CCing someone on an email, by the way. That's if you want it to be delivered upon signing to a title company or to a lender automatically with your personal message. So how this works is if everybody you've sent it to signs it, it will take it over to the title company or to the lender with personal instructions from you. However, if the deal falls apart, I don't want it to go to them. So then they would not get a CC'd copy. So it only happens if everybody you've set up for signing signs the documents. Lastly, what do you want to send? You're going to pick from your documents list. By the way, if it's on the purchase side, it will be carrying over your seller filled out seller's disclosure and lead-based paint. Those automatically get pulled into the transaction for you so they can sign everything at once. So I'm going to say we're going to go ahead and just maybe sign a couple of these today. Maybe our disclosure, maybe our listing contract, whatever we're looking to send them. You can even put them in whatever order you choose, so you can drag and drop them into the right order. And then lastly, if the forms you've selected don't have the smart form fill out where it's already pre-tagged, you're simply going to drag the tags where you want them to sign. So in this case, if Colleen here was my seller, then I would want to go to the drag and drop, and I would want to have her initial and sign in all the appropriate spots. It's really just that easy. You're going to go ahead and hit next and send invitation. And now the invitation has been sent out for your clients to sign them. Okay, that brings us down to inspections, appraisals, and closings. Inspections can still be done. They are still considered essential for the sales. The appraisals can still be done. They are still considered essential, and closings can still be completed. However, closings, we want to check with your brokerage on what the policy is for these items, and you want to check especially with closings. I have seen some of the craziest things, honest to goodness, in the last 2 weeks. I have had a client who had a drive-up closing where literally the title company closed it. They were in their cars. They were given 2 packages to sign. The closer stood outside the car. They rolled their windows down. They actually asked questions. They signed both packets. They were able to keep one, and then the other one went back to the closer. They were asked to use their own pen. So, I mean, it kind of really ranges. Some title companies are having everyone in separate rooms. The agents, from everyone that I've talked to, the agents are, because we, again, are non-essential, I was not able to attend the closings. That was difficult for me, but we, again, are sheltering in. We're not going to the closings. But do check with your broker on what the policy is for your title company, and check with, if your broker owns a title company, make sure you check with the title company and the brokerage, and to get what they need to do. What are the instructions? What do you need to prepare your clients for? So it's different from title company to title company. So you want to ask those questions ahead of time. There are also a couple should nots. I have seen some agents who said, well, as soon as the order's lifted, I'm just going to go around, take my phone and go in and live stream or video someone else's listing. Of course, that is never a good idea. You don't have permission to do that. You need to get written permission in order to video someone's listing. How it works is if you are the listing agent, that's generally given to you in your listing agreement. But if you are working with a buyer, you just cannot walk into someone's listing and start videoing it. You do have to have written permission. And of course, no one is supposed to be going to show properties right now. We are considered non-essential, and we are supposed to be staying at home to keep everybody safe. So under the governor's orders, we're not showing properties. That's why you notice that the showing time link has been removed. So we want to make sure everybody stays safe, but you cannot go in and start videoing other people's listings. And then please remember how important it is to get your seller to sign that permission, that copyright photo permission, because we certainly want to make sure you're legally protected to use someone else's photos. Okay, that is all I had. So if you had any questions, now would be a really good time to put them in the question panel. I think Chris has done probably an outstanding job as usual answering those questions. Dave, is there anything you want to add or anything that maybe I missed?
I think the big takeaway is to come to the class on Thursday for virtual showings and virtual open houses, and practice doing some virtual showings and virtual open houses.
Terrific. We do have another class I want to tell you about on Thursday at 10 a.m. It is the Mixing It Up with MiRealSource. It's different every week. It's again Thursday at 10 a.m. We cover different topics. We talk about, how to work remotely, but we also have kind of made a variety show out of it. We do some prize giveaways. We show you some quick tips and tricks that you're going to need to know working remotely. And so remember, you can register for both the Mixing It Up with MiRealSource and the virtual showings and virtual open houses. Those are both going to be on Thursday, but it's a chance for you to win prizes and learn some fun stuff along the way. All right, any last questions?
Everything's looking good. I'd like to thank everybody for the questions that they had. But I think we got them all.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well,
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Stay home, stay safe.